They didn't take him in the night. They took him at 10:43 a.m. on a Thursday. Three women and a clipboard. One of them wore a cardigan. Another had a sheriff's badge. The third called me sweetie as she read the court order. I was standing in the living room of a two-bedroom rental behind a church in Tallahassee, Florida, holding my son Milo, who was 6 months old and had just stopped crying after his morning bottle. I was 17, still in pajamas, hair in a bun. My aunt had gone to work. My mom hadn't spoken to me in 3 weeks. The woman said, "You've been deemed unfit due to housing instability, lack of income, and absence of a legal guardian." She said it like she was reading my lunch order. I asked if I could pack his blanket. They said no. I watched them drive away with him in a white government sedan with no plates. He was in the back seat, still in his onesie, still drooling, still mine. I threw up in the bushes. Then I sat on the porch for 4 hours and didn't move. My name is Haley Brooks, and I wasn't dangerous. I wasn't on drugs. I wasn't running from anything. I was poor, that's all. And in the county I grew up in, being poor and young and female was enough to lose everything. They called it emergency placement, said he'd be in foster care temporarily, said I could regain custody through cooperation. What they didn't say was the paperwork was already moving to make the separation permanent. I didn't even get a lawyer. They said, "You can't afford one." I tried to fight, took the bus to 3 different offices, got handed new phone numbers and pamphlets and hearing dates. Every meeting was cold, clinical. They called him the child instead of your son. They said things like, "If you love him, you'll accept what's best for him." As if that wasn't me. As if I wasn't the one who nursed him through a fever at 2 a.m. As if I wasn't the one who sang to him when the power was out. As if I wasn't the one who gave up school, pride, everything, just to hold him. When the judge signed the order, full termination of parental rights, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stopped being the girl they thought I was and started becoming the woman they never saw coming. I enrolled in night school, took a job cleaning the very courthouse that took my son, studied between mopping floors, got my GED at 19, took the SAT at 20, got into Florida State with grants and essays that bled ink, majored in pre-law, minored in rage. Every semester I found new pieces of the system that stole Milo from me. Statutes written in 1972, judges who hadn't read a casebook in 10 years, social workers managing 60 files each. I read them all. I studied their language, their habits, their blind spots. And then I wrote a list. This is how they took him. It had 17 bullet points. That list became my playbook, my Bible, my revenge plan. But it wasn't revenge for me. It was for the other girls in the waiting room, the ones no one writes about. By 25, I was in law school. By 28, I passed the bar. By 29, I filed my first federal civil rights lawsuit against the Department of Children and Families in the state of Florida. And by 30, I was sitting across the table from the woman who once told me I'd never be anything more than a footnote in a file. They tried to drown me in paperwork. 4,000 pages of discovery, 5 depositions, 32 motions. They thought I'd drown in the weight of it, that I'd crack. They didn't know I used to study case law between floor scrubbing and bagging groceries. They didn't know I memorized court procedure while changing trash cans. They thought they could intimidate me. They forgot I already survived the worst thing a person can live through. They already took my child. There was nothing left to take. The first hearing was quiet, administrative. My name versus the state of Florida's Department of Children and Families. They tried to dismiss, claimed the statute of limitations, claimed I lacked standing, claimed Milo was legally adopted and thriving. I stood and said, "If you think this lawsuit is about my child, you haven't read the complaint." Silence. Then the judge said, "We proceed." I filed on behalf of 12 women, all of them poor, them under 21 when their babies were taken, and all of them processed without legal representation. I argued that the state had created a shadow policy where poverty was treated as neglect and mothers were punished for being unsupported. I had evidence, case files, internal memos, emails, interviews with retired caseworkers who called the practice quiet targeting. The state's lawyer, gray suit, slick hair, said I was overreaching. I said, the Constitution doesn't disappear in zip codes under 30K a year. The judge didn't smile, but he let me speak. Every story was like mine. Monica, age 19, got evicted, lost her baby the same week. Naya, age 17, worked 2 jobs, missed a casework, air visit, lost custody. Leah, age 20, had no family, no car, no lawyer, gone. No abuse, no danger, just poverty. And the system called it unfit. The media picked it up after week 3. Local stations first, then a podcast, then a New York Times column titled, "Motherhood Has a Price Tag in Florida." Suddenly, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Can we interview you? Can you speak at our conference? Would you come to DC? I said no to most of them. I wasn't here to go viral. I was here to win. Then one day I got a message I never expected. A short email. Subject, Adoptive Family Inquiry. It was from Milo's adoptive parents. They'd read the article. They wanted to talk, not about reversing anything, but about connection. I froze. It had been 13 years. He was now 13. A teenager. I didn't know what to say. I asked for time. Sat in my apartment that night and stared at the one photo I still had of him. 6 months old, eyes wide, wearing a secondhand dinosaur onesie. And I cried, the kind of crying that makes your ribs ache. Then I opened my laptop and kept writing the motion. Because no matter what happened with Milo, I still had a job to do. The courtroom was full, not packed like a movie scene, full like a church on the edge of something real. Reporters in the back, advocates near the front, and 12 women behind me, the ones I filed for, the ones who lost children to silence, the ones who weren't supposed to still be standing. I stood, took a breath, read the opening myself. Your Honor, this case is not about custody. It is about rights. The right to raise your child without wealth. The right to exist without being criminalized for lacking resources. The right to be heard when you have nothing else. I didn't shake. Not once. The state argued it was an unfortunate misinterpretation of policy. I said, it's not policy, it's pattern. Then I read their own numbers. County removals, age breakdowns, racial disparities. How 74% of terminations from 2004 to 2017 involved mothers under 21 with incomes below the poverty line. How only 6% had legal representation. How hundreds of those children were adopted without consent. Then I read one last document, my own termination order, signed 2010, and I said, you built this system on mothers like me, but now we speak for ourselves. The judge took 3 weeks. Then the decision came. We won. Not just my clients, all of them. The court ruled that the state had engaged in unconstitutional patterns of removal based on socioeconomic status without due process protections. Damages were awarded. An independent monitor was appointed. A statewide review was ordered. Policies had to change. It wasn't everything, but it was a wrecking ball through the door they slammed on me at 17. I flew home that night. My mom was waiting on the porch. She said, told you, baby. You broke it open. 3 weeks later, I met Milo in a park outside Gainesville. His adoptive parents were kind, quiet, nervous. He stood there, tall, curly-haired, eyes like mine. I didn't say, I'm your mom. I said, hi, Milo, I'm Haley. He nodded, said, I know. We sat on a bench, talked about school, music. He liked coding. I told him I did too. He smiled. And for a moment, the years didn't matter. We meet once a month now, no pressure, no titles, just time. And one day, maybe he'll ask everything. And I'll tell him. But for now, this is enough. They took my baby when I was 17. They said I wasn't enough. Now, the law says otherwise. And so does he. Thank you for watching. If you want to get more of that kind of stories, press like and check out our channel.